This Jew walks into a bar, and other Gentiles in the bar, they're looking at this Jew. Let's have some fun with him. So one of them says to the other, I have a little bit money left. I think I'm gonna go buy General Motors. And the second guy says, yeah, me too. I also have some money left. I think I'm going to invest and buy Microsoft. And the third guy's like, yeah, I also have another investment I want to do. I'm going to buy Toyota. So the Jew is sitting there with his beer and he says, not selling. We live in a society where pain isn't something that meant the same thing that it did 100 years ago. Pain is not looked at the same way it did before. Okay, our chas and kala are here. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Hanukkah, come sit down next to Okay. Thank you much of you. Okay, let's get started. Sorry about that. Here we go. I'll put a cake and some drinks on the table. All right, let's go. Okay, getting back to our subject. So, the Mittler Rebbe was known for his tremendous power of concentration. Famous story that I'm sure most of you heard before. The Mittler Rebbe was once studying Torah, and he was living in a 2-story building, and while he's so engrossed in the study of Torah, he didn't notice that his baby had fallen out of the crib. But meanwhile, his father, the Alter Rebbe, who was living on the top story of this building, he went down from the top story, and he picked up the baby, and he cuddled the baby until the baby was calmed down, and during this whole entire time, the Mittler Rebbe didn't notice anything. He was totally engrossed in his studies, didn't hear anything, didn't notice anything. So afterwards, the Alter Rebbe said to him that whatever is going on, you always have to hear the cry of a child. Doesn't matter what level you're reaching spiritually, what you're studying, what knowledge you have, you always have to hear the cry of a child. This is very significant to this week's Torah portion, because the name of this week's Torah portion is Bais Bezalel. Bais Bezalel literally means when you'll get higher. But the subject of this week's Torah portion is, what it starts off with, is lighting the menorah. The question is, why does lighting the menorah mean why is it associated with getting higher? So, Rashi says that when the Kohen lit the menorah, he had to make sure that the flame kissed the wick for the amount of time that it would take for the fire to catch on, until the fire would rise on its own, until it would go up by itself. So that's why Bais Bezalel means to go higher, because you light the menorah, it's not enough just to light the menorah, you have to make sure that the fire catches and it goes up by itself. So similarly, the Rebbe spoke about how this week is a special energy to reach out to another person who may or not know they're crying, may not know that they're missing something. You have to reach out to them and give them what they're missing. Their neshama is missing. They may not know their fire hasn't been lit yet, but you have to reach out to them until, not just that their fire is lit, but till they don't need you anymore. Till the fire rises on its own means that everyone, all of us, we all have learned from our teachers, from our friends, from our rabbis, from the tzaddikim, all have received from a support system. But the theme of Bais Bezalel is your fire rises up by itself. It also means, by the way, that you create an environment in your home, that your home is such an environment that when you walk into certain places you walk into and you just want to dance. So there's just a setting of dancing, right? Certain places you walk into and you want to read. Some place you walk into you want to fall asleep. Some people they're sitting in the front row when I give my sermon, and before I even say anything, people are already sleeping. What I say to put you to sleep? I trust you, Rabbi. Anyway, so similarly, we're supposed to create an environment in our homes that is conducive, that makes us want to learn Torah, makes us want to give tzedakah, makes us want to be who we're supposed to be. And also for our children, many times Rebbe spoke about the power of giving your child his very own siddur, giving your child his very own chumash. It shouldn't be that he is studying Torah or praying because you're telling him to pray. It should be his own thing. And the best way to make it his own thing is by giving him the tools to make it his own thing. Give him his own siddur, his own chumash, his own charity box. It should have his name on the charity box. It should be his. There was a chassid of the Rabbi Rashab who came to Rabbi Rashab with the following question. Among chassidim, the highest title is a chassid. Literally, in the time of the Gemara, chassid meant someone who was pious. But chassidim, from time of Baal Shem Tov, consider that to be the highest level, be a chassid. What is a chassid? He asked Rabbi Rashab. So Rabbi Rashab said the following. In those days, they would have these street lamps, and it was a lamplighter who would take a fire on the end of a long stick, and he would light up all the lamps with this long stick. The Rabbi Rashab said he knows the fire is not his own, and he goes with this lamp, with this stick, and with his long stick, and he lights up all the lamps. So the chassid said to Rabbi Rashab, but what do you do if the lamps are in the ocean? What do you do if the lamps are in the desert? So the Rebbe Rashab said, if the lamps are in the desert, you have to go light the lamp in the desert until the desert is embarrassed that it's a desert and will stop being a desert. What do you do if it's in the ocean? The Rebbe Rashab thought for a second and he said, if you take off your clothing, jump in the ocean, and light the lamp in the ocean. That's basically the story. And then the chassid added one more thing, one more part. Is that a chassid? The Rabbi Rashab said, yes, that's a chassid. What's exchange over here? What are they talking about? Obviously, they're talking about souls, neshamas, and the ability and the need and the empowerment of each of us to be a lamplighter, to light up another neshama, to give another neshama a connection to who they really are and to their soul mission. So the chassid tells the Rabbi Rashab, but what do I do if the person's in a desert? What does a desert mean? A desert means a place that's empty, no people can live there. Spiritual desert means a place where there's no Torah, there's no fear of heaven, just an empty place. So the chassid said, what do I do in such an empty place of destruction that nothing can grow there? What do I do about that place? The Rabbi Rashab said, you have to go to that place too. Light the fire there too. Don't be embarrassed. And on the contrary, by bringing light there, the person will realize that there's something that needs to be, that his current situation leaves much to be desired. I want to do more. But then the guy asked the Rabbi Rashab, what about the ocean? The ocean represents, it says in the Talmud, water means Torah. An ocean means somebody who's full of Torah. What are you going to do? Someone's full of Torah, and yet their fire is not yet kindled. Because although they're full of Torah, but the light of Torah hasn't penetrated them. They may know a lot of Gemara, a lot of Chumash, a lot of halacha, but they haven't touched the light of Torah. So you can tell them another page of Torah, another Gemara, another halacha. They know it all. They're an ocean full of Torah. So Rebbe Rashab said, for that, you have to take off your clothing. Taking off your clothing means, in order to reach someone's neshama who all the Torah hasn't helped them, the only way to reach such a person's neshama is by stripping all the layers of yourself and talking to them from the very core of your being. You have to talk to them for the essence of your neshama, and only if you talk to them for the essence of your neshama can you reach other person's neshama. But that seems like a big tall order, because to be so vulnerable to somebody who is so cold and so distant, when the person could really write you off, it's not so easy. So that's where the chassid asked again, is that a chassid? And then Hashem had to think, yes, that's a chassid. That's what Hashem demands of each of us. He demands of each of us not just to help the person who's in the desert, but But even help the person who's in the ocean, which in a way is much harder. Because someone has all that knowledge, and yet you still have to look past that knowledge and say, no, this is a child of Hashem, and this person's frigidity doesn't mean they don't have a soul. And that's what the power of this week is about. Lighting up another person's Hashem. In that theme, lighting up another person's Neshama, there's a beautiful, beautiful teaching of the Rebbe connected to a very famous story of the Parsha, which gives us a lot of insight of what this means. A lot of things in our life happen very, very quickly. So quickly that you could lose so many opportunities if you're not conscious. If you don't hear the cry of the child, you could lose a lot of opportunities. You don't know what's going on in the person's life. You could delay something, and opportunity is lost, and you wouldn't even know it. And that theme we see in the story of Moshe Rabbeinu, this week's Torah portion. And in this week's Torah portion, we see that Miriam and Aaron are talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's one of the most important things in the Torah. The Torah says to us, every single day, remember the story of how they spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu. What did they say about Moshe Rabbeinu? They said about Moshe Rabbeinu that how dare he leave his wife. Moshe Rabbeinu left his wife Zipporah. God told Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the revelation of Mount Sinai, everyone go back to their tents. But you, Moshe Rabbeinu, God said to him, stand here with me. Which meant Moshe Rabbeinu was not meant to go back to regular married life after the giving of the Torah. He was supposed to stay with God and not be married anymore. But the other siblings of Moshe Rabbeinu were also prophets. Aaron was a prophet, and Miriam was a prophetess. So they wondered, how come God can reveal himself to them and they can stay married, and Moshe can't? And they said there must be something wrong with Moshe, he's doing something wrong. And although Miriam meant well, and although her brother meant well, yet the Torah says that there was a mistake, and because of their mistake, Aaron and Miriam were smitten with saras, with this miraculous disease we don't have anymore nowadays. And the Torah though says,
Miriam, not Moshe.
Sorry, not Aaron, correct, right? Sorry, only Aaron, not Miriam, right? I'm sorry, only Miriam, not Aaron. Thank you.
Amen.
So, the question is, the Gemara says a silver lining in the story. Rashi says, when Miriam got smitten with this disease, the Torah says that Moshe prayed for her, and God said that they should wait for her to heal. 7 days. Why wait for 7 days? Because she had a great merit. What was her great merit?
She waited for Moshe to pass.
Very good. When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, Moshe Rabbeinu was being threatened to be killed by the Egyptians. So Miriam took Moshe and put him in the basket, and she waited and watched Moshe Rabbeinu for an hour or so until Moshe Rabbeinu was rescued by Paro's daughter Batu. So because Miriam waited for Moshe, therefore all the Jewish people waited for Miriam. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara actually says that when you do something, God pays you back measure for measure. But that's measure for measure just for negative things. For positive things, the Gemara says Hashem pays you back 500 times more. And actually it works out 500 times more. How so? Because how many hours are there in a week? A week has 168 hours. And she waited for Moshe Rabbeinu for about 20 minutes. So it comes out that all the Jewish people were waiting for her for a week was 500 times more than the time that she was waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu to be rescued. But the obvious question is like this. The words the Gemara uses is that because she waited for Moshe Rabbeinu, therefore she was honored. Let me ask you a question. Let's say she wasn't honored. Let's say the people left her in the desert. Where would she be? She wouldn't have survived. They're leaving Moshe Rabbeinu aside. They're leaving Miriam stuck in the desert would have meant the end of her life. That would meant that she wouldn't have lived anymore. So how can we say it's something that's done for her honor? What about honor? It's something that's needed for her survival. What do you mean honor? So the answer is like this. There is a rule about someone who has tzara, someone who speaks lashon hara, someone who speaks negatively of others. The Torah says, because they spoke negatively of someone else, they're supposed to be distanced from everybody else. They have to go outside the camp. Because they cause distance between husband and wife, between people, therefore the Torah says, let them be distanced. So part of their therapy is being away from people. That therapy could only take place when there is a camp. If the Jewish people are traveling, so then there's no, the beginning of the cure of tzaras cannot begin yet. Because the cure only begins when there is a camp, that you're outside of the camp. So if the Jewish people would have traveled before she would have healed, she wouldn't have been left alone. She would have gone with them. However, her cure would not have begun. Her cure only begins when she could be outside the camp. When there's no camp, when everyone's traveling, then the cure cannot begin. So it's not a question of life and death. It was purely a question of her being in pain for a little while longer. Had the Jewish people traveled right away as they were meant to go, and they would have gotten 7 days closer to the Holy Land, 7 days faster, had they done that, so Miriam would have suffered for 7 more days until they would have camped, and instead they waited for her for 7 days to be cured, so she could be cured 7 days earlier. But we're still left with the question. What did Miriam do for Moshe Rabbeinu? She didn't just honor Moshe Rabbeinu. She didn't just do something which is a little bit nice for him. She saved his life. She stood there until Batya came and rescued him. So the truth is, so why are we talking about that she was rewarded with honor? She saved his life. So the answer is like this. She really didn't actually save his life. What happened was, when Moshe Rabbeinu was discovered by Paro's daughter, so Moshe Rabbeinu refused to nurse from all of the Egyptian servants, and therefore Miriam comes forth and she says, "I know why he's not nursing, because he is a Jewish baby. He needs to nurse from a Jewish woman." And that's when he was reunited with his mother. Miriam was the one who came forward and said that. What would have happened had Miriam not been there? It would have taken a little bit longer. It wouldn't have been that Moshe wouldn't have died, chassidus. Rather, it would have taken a little longer. So the idea of Miriam being rewarded with the Jewish people staying with her for a week is very similar to what she did for Moshe Rabbeinu. She took away his pain much faster. When he was a baby and he needed to nurse, had she not been there, it would have taken a long time until they would have figured out why he's not nursing. But because she was there, she took away the pain faster. So we see from this is that Hashem rewarded her not because of something incredible, she saved his life, it's because she took away the baby's pain faster. A lot of times parents have make a choice between staying up all night. Looks like you did that last night, I don't know, but anyways, we'll maybe just try. So anyway, so that they make a choice, or the baby shouldn't cry. Either I'm going to sleep, or the baby's not going to cry. And you could lose out on the ability to really help someone if you're not sensitive to their cry. If you don't notice what's going on in that person's life, you could really miss out something. And the Torah is telling us to value the temporary pain in your life, the temporary pain in other people's lives. Don't think because it's temporary they'll get through it. It's not true. Think about your own life. I know I was thinking about this myself yesterday. Some things that like some people were there for me at certain moments, I would have gotten through life without it, but it made such a difference. When you're going through pain, that makes such a difference. Someone's there for you when you're in pain. There was an Israeli soldier who, unfortunately, he was shot, and while the ambulance was on its way, other soldier literally had to hold the wounds shut until the ambulance came. And had he not been there, the guy chassidus would have died. So the paramedics came, the ambulance came, and they brought him to the hospital. And he notified the parents that this guy's in the hospital. He was attacked. You can imagine the parents, the grief they have, their son's in the hospital. And so, to make a long story short, Shlomo was in the hospital. Shlomo was in terrible pain. Shlomo's life is in danger. And the other soldier, Yaakov, told the parents, and the parents come. Thank God Shlomo survives. The parents felt a need to thank Yaakov. Yaakov is the one who saved their son's life. You held on to him until the paramedics came. He saved their son's life. We need to thank Yaakov. Hello, Mefaked. אתה יודע מי זה Yaakov? איזה מפקד? מי אתה? I know what you're talking about. Which soldier? We don't know which soldier. Which Yaakov? They have no idea. So they wanted to, and the mother and the father felt like a need. We need to thank the soldier who saved their son's life, but they had no idea who to speak to. So they had this little makolet in Kiryat Malachi near Ashkelon, that little grocery store. So among Jews, news travels fast sometimes. So they put up a little sign in the grocery store: if you know the soldier on this and this day who held my son's wound and saved my son's life, give me a call. And they had this in their grocery store for a while, and eventually they discovered. I think someone put on the radio for them, but they did discover it was one Erev Shabbat, it was one Friday afternoon, and they called Yaakov to meet Shlomo. And Yaakov's father came, and Shlomo's father, and all met together at the grocery store. They're at the grocery store, and of course, they embrace, and they're so thankful. And the mothers of Shlomo says, now I finally feel like whole again, because I felt missing in my life. I didn't have a chance to thank the one who gave us our son. You gave me my life. You gave me my son. You're the angel who gave me my life. And the mother of Yaakov says to Shlomo's parents, you don't remember me? No, we don't remember you. She said, when I used to be struggling financially terribly, I was pregnant, and I used to come to your supermarket to buy bread, to buy milk, and I decided that I was going to chassidus abort the child. I just couldn't handle the financial pressure. But when you heard that, you and your husband sat me down, and you explained to me the sweetest sound in the world is for a mother to hear the word Ima from her child. And you explained to me what it means to be a mother, and how precious it is, and how it's a gift of God, and you can't mix into God's plans, and you can't tamper with life. When you gave that to me, you convinced me that I have to have this child. And that child, Yaakov, saved Shlomo's life. So it all comes back. Whatever we do for other people, all comes back. But the thing that this teaching of the Torah is telling us is not just that it's worth to help other people, not just that, but it's helping someone be in pain for a small amount of time. Taking someone out of pain for just a little bit of pain, taking someone their pain away for a short amount of time, not forever. Taking away someone's pain for a short amount of time is whether it's a spiritual pain, because the person doesn't know his fire is not lit yet, or it's a physical pain. The person needs a place to stay for a night. The person needs a meal. So you think it's just a temporary thing. The Torah says now you have to listen to the cry of another person, hear them out, even though the person might not be crying. The person might say, "Oh, it's okay." To hear the person. And the Torah says it all comes back to you. And that's what I wanted to share tonight. Anyone has any question, comment, criticism, tomatoes, cucumbers, Sheva brachas. Okay, we guys don't go away. We need to do Sheva brachas, Achas and Kala. Did anybody wash here tonight?
Yes.
Who did wash? You washed also?
Yes.
A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Okay, so let's make a mezumin and do Sheva brachas.